Everybody, welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to make our quintessential British fish and chips. Delicious. So I have our scale and we have our measuring spoon. So what I'm going to do is get the weight amount for these measurements as well. And here we have our cornstarch, baking powder, all-purpose flour, black pepper, kosher salt. And originally the recipe called for lager. I don't have that. I do have our sparkling water, and what I'll simply do is I'll make this 2/3 of a cup of sparkling water, and that carbonation in it is what helps and gives this a very light and flaky crust. Now the other thing is that some people swear that this should be made the day before. So I'm going to make the batter the day before, and then we will fry up our cod tomorrow and see how it turns out. So the cod's in the refrigerator, and I just need to measure everything out, and we'll mix it together, and then we'll let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then I can dredge our flour tomorrow. Here's our 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and this is our 7 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, which is also 2.15 ounces, and our 7 tablespoons of cornstarch, which also is 2.15 ounces. And we're going to add a pinch of our kosher salt flavoring and a pinch of our black pepper. I'll stir that all together, and then we have our 2/3 of a cup of sparkling water. This is Perrier. So you see all that foaming fizziness? That's supposed to help give it all this extra light, flaky, tender breading on the fish. So now I'm supposed to let it sit overnight, which to me sounds a little counterintuitive because then all our bubbles are going to disappear. Anyhow, we shall find out. This will be our recipe experimentation. If it doesn't work, then we know not to let it sit overnight. And that's why we experiment the recipes. Each time we make it, double check everything works properly. Here we have our cod, which I got at Key Food. It's a bit pricey, $7.99 a pound is a bit expensive. So if you're gonna do this for a family of 4, it might be a bit expensive. You could use haddock as well. Cod is the best fish for British fish and chips, but if haddock is on sale, get the haddock instead. All right, so just, or wait until you see cod on sale and then do it, because it would be a bit expensive. I would assume that this is only enough for maybe 2 people. We'll slice this and then have a piece there. And we have our flour that I put some salt in, seasoning, and then here is our batter that sat overnight in the refrigerator, and our cutting board and our knife. So I'm going to trim these so they're about even pieces, get rid of any of the thin ends because we don't want those to overcook while we're waiting for this part to cook. So let me get that all dressed up and then we can start doing some. Here's our piece of fish, and you see right here this is very thin, so I'm going to cut this off, and I'll do that as a separate piece. So I'm going to cut there, and then I'm going to cut equal size strips this way. All right, so I'll get those cut, and then I'm going to put them in our flour. So we have this piece, which we'll do, and then these 2 nice, really long pieces. Now, if I was in a restaurant, I would leave these this way. But since we're just doing this for, let's say, at home, I believe I'm going to cut these 2 in half because these are really thick and this is a bit thinner. And I'd rather have everything a bit smaller and manageable in the pot. We've got our canola oil in our pan already, and we want the temperature to rise to 350. So we have to wait a little bit. And I'm going to trim this. And what we'll do is once it's trimmed, we're going to put some salt on it, and then we want our fish to be very dry. So I'm going to take a little bit of our kosher salt, and I'm going to sprinkle this over the fish. And this will help draw out any excess moisture that we don't need. And then I can blot it dry. So with a paper towel, you just want to make sure that it's completely dried off. So take this beautiful piece first. Take care of that. And put it all dry. So you're just pat or dry? Now we're gonna put it in our flour. We're gonna just dredge it in the flour. If you want, you could add a little bit of pepper in here, or even paprika, or even a little bit of spices. The British fish and chips is usually pretty straightforward, and salt and pepper is really all that needs to be put in. But if you prefer, you could even chop up a little parsley, put it in here, and get it really tasty. I'm gonna get rid of our whisk so that's not in the way. And then let's check our temperature. Is it at 350? Yes, it's actually going higher than 350. So I gotta adjust the temperature, bring it down. Once you start putting fish in here, it's gonna lower. And we're just gonna do 2 pieces at a time. I don't wanna lower the temperature of the oil too much. Okay, so now we're just gonna put this in here. So it's a bit messy, so you know. All right, so I'm gonna make sure we've got that coating over all of it. I'm gonna let that drip off. Okay. Let's get this into our pot. Just gently place it in. There we go. All right, and then we can do the next piece. Oh, I gotta tap it dry. So anyhow, I gotta pause and clean my hand in order to dry these and get the rest in. Okay, so I've got my 2 pieces of fish in here. And now this one's been in, I wanna turn it over. And we're gonna continue to cook. I'm gonna check the temperature, it's at 350. Make sure that gets covered. And then when it's done, and these should take about 4 minutes total. We're looking for that nice golden brown color. And when it does come out, I'm gonna put it on the paper towel to drain off all the excess oil. So while that's cooking, I'm gonna finish dredging the rest of these pieces and getting them in the batter. All right, so this first piece looks good. It's been there about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm not sure, sorry, that's stuff. But I'm waiting until we got that nice golden brown color. And I let it go just a tiny bit longer. I just want to make sure it's cooked inside. So I'm going to just put that here. And this piece, I'm going to flip over because I want it to be evenly cooked. So when maybe 30 seconds later, I'm going to take that one out. And you see I'm using a slotted spoon. I don't want to use tongs. Tongs would damage the piece. And also I do want to put just a tiny little bit, a sprinkling of salt, kosher salt on the top right now. That's the best way to season it. All right, so this is the thin one, and even though I went in last, I'm taking it out now because it is thinner, and we want it to not get overdone. And that's a beautiful golden brown. Look how gorgeous that is. And then here's our second piece, which again is thinner than the first piece. So I'm going to take that out. Last piece. It's beautiful. There we go. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on the pieces that just came out. Gorgeous. So now I'm just going to get out all the excess gunk in here and clean it up a bit, and then we can make our chips and our tartar sauce and present you the finished plating of our quintessential British fish and chips. So here we have our beautiful fish and chips, our quintessential British fish and chips, with our cod, our hand-cut chips, our freshly made tartar sauce, some cornichons, a wedge of lemon. It's going to be absolutely delicious. So the other thing, remember, this is the pièce de résistance. In England, everybody eats fish and chips with malt vinegar. You just pour it right on and enjoy it. And I am looking forward to having a lovely lunch today. And this will be the star of the show. I love this vinegar. I got this at Myers of Keswick a long time ago. If you recall, I went to Myers of Keswick to get some of our British ingredients when we were doing the Australian book of the month tomorrow when the war began, and I was getting the custard. And Myers of Keswick is in Greenwich Village and has all British foods. And this is just absolutely wonderful. I love this malt vinegar. So I'm just gonna pour that on and enjoy it, and it's gonna be absolutely delicious. So enjoy, everybody. I hope this inspires you to do some cooking at home and in the kitchen and make some quintessential British fish and chips. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.